My family bet money that I'd be homeless by 30 at my high school graduation. So I proved them wrong, got wealthy, and now they're all crowdfunding while I'm buying my third vacation home. Your support fuels us every day. Please subscribe and tell us in the comments which part of the world you're watching from. We love connecting with you. I still remember the smell of cheap perfume and spilled champagne at my high school graduation party. My cap sat crooked on my head as I stood in our cramped Baltimore apartment, diploma in hand, thinking the worst was behind me. Then Uncle Glenn slapped $200 on the kitchen table. I'm calling it now. Elizabeth's gonna be homeless by 30. Anyone wanna take that bet? His laugh cut through the room like broken glass. My stomach twisted. My mother, Diane, counted out bills from her purse without looking at me. I'll put in 100. Girl can't even keep her room clean. Aunt Beverly cackled, adding her money to the pile. Make it 150 from me. She's too soft for the real world. My cousins Trey and Jasmine filmed it on their phones, their faces lit by the screen's glow. My younger brother Melvin, only 14, stared at his shoes. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, walls closing in. My father had died 2 years prior. Cancer, and these people were supposed to be my family. Anyone betting on me? I asked, voice cracking. Silence. My grandmother Reby finally spoke from her wheelchair in the corner. Baby, they're just playing. But her eyes said different. She handed me a folded $50 bill later, whispering, "Prove them wrong, baby girl. Prove them all wrong." That night I packed everything I owned into 2 garbage bags while they laughed in the living room, still drinking, still betting. I walked out at dawn with $300 in savings, Grandma Ruby's 50, and a rage that would fuel me for the next 12 years. The Greyhound bus to Atlanta cost $89. I slept in the station the first night, my bags clutched against my chest, jumping at every sound. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like angry wasps. A security guard named Harold bought me coffee at sunrise. You running from something or toward something? He asked. Both, I said. I found a room in a house with 5 other girls in East Atlanta for $200 a month. The walls were thin as paper. Roaches scattered when you turned on lights. My roommate Tamika worked 3 jobs and still came up short on rent. This city eats girls like us alive, she said, braiding my hair one night. I got hired at a call center, $9 an hour, soul-crushing work. Customers screamed about their cable bills while I smiled into the phone, my voice syrup-sweet thinking about that bet. During lunch breaks I studied in my car, a beat-up Honda Civic I'd bought for $800. It leaked oil and the AC didn't work, but it was mine. I'd enrolled in community college online, taking business courses at night. Sleep became a luxury. I lived on ramen and determination. My mother called once. You coming home for Christmas? Like nothing had happened. I have work, I lied. I'd never go back. Not like this. Tamika found me crying in the bathroom one night, scholarship rejection letter crumpled in my fist. Baby girl, you know what separates us from them? She asked. We got something to prove. That's our superpower. I taped that rejection letter above my bed. 6 months later I'd collected 12 more. Kept them all. Everything changed the day I met Vanessa Park at the call center. She was temporary management brought in to improve metrics. 28, Korean American with a blazer that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She listened to my calls for a week, saying nothing. Then she called me into the conference room. My heart hammered. I needed this job. You're wasting your potential, she said flatly. I blinked. You're brilliant at de-escalation, you read people instantly, and you're working here for $9 an hour. Why? I told her about school, about money, about the bet. Everything poured out. She sat back, studying me with sharp eyes. I run a consulting firm. We train customer service departments for Fortune 500 companies. I need someone who understands both sides, the struggling worker and the frustrated customer. Interested. The job paid $35,000 a year with benefits. I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. I don't have a degree yet. You have something better. You have hunger. You start Monday. She stood, handed me her card. Elizabeth, right? Here's what you're going to do. Finish that degree. Learn everything I teach you. In 5 years you'll be making 6 figures. In 10 you'll run your own firm. She walked out, leaving me shaking in that beige conference room. Tamika screamed when I told her. We danced in our roach-infested kitchen, laughing and crying. That night I called my grandmother. She was the only one who'd asked how I was doing. Grandma, I got a real job. Her voice cracked. I knew you would, baby. I knew it. Vanessa didn't just give me a job, she gave me a blueprint. The first month I shadowed her everywhere, taking notes until my hand cramped. She taught me how to read a room, how to present ideas that made executives lean forward. Business is about solving problems people don't know they have yet, she said over coffee one morning, and making them pay you well for it. I soaked it up like desert sand and rain. She introduced me to her network. Powerful people with power handshakes and designer watches. I felt like an imposter in my thrift store blazer, but Vanessa whispered before each meeting, "You belong here. Act like it." By month 6 I was leading training sessions. By month 9 I'd finished my associate degree. Vanessa gave me a raise, $45,000. I moved into a studio apartment with actual appliances that worked. No roaches. I cried the first night sleeping alone without fear. At a conference in Chicago I ran into my cousin Trey. He was working hotel security, eyes widening when he saw me in the lobby, briefcase in hand, heading to my panel on customer retention strategies. Elizabeth? What are you doing here? Working, I said simply. He looked older, tired. Your mom's asks about you sometimes. Tell her I'm busy. The words tasted like freedom. That night I called Grandma Reby. She was weaker now, her voice thin as tissue paper. Baby, you making me so proud. But don't lose yourself in the money, you hear? I won't, Grandma. Promise. But something had shifted in me. The hunger Vanessa recognized. It was growing into something sharper, harder. Something that scared me a little. At 25, I left Vanessa's firm to start my own. She threw me a party, handed me a bottle of champagne worth more than my first car. Go be great, she said. And remember, business is war fought with spreadsheets. I called my company Phoenix Solutions. The symbolism wasn't subtle. I specialized in customer experience consulting for mid-size companies ready to scale. My pitch was simple. I'd been on both sides of the phone. I understood the human element that most consultants missed. My first client was a regional telecom company hemorrhaging customers. 3 months of restructuring their service department, retraining staff, implementing systems I'd designed. Their retention rate jumped 37%. They paid me $80,000. I sat in my car after that deposit cleared, hands shaking on the steering wheel. My bank account had more zeros than I'd seen in my lifetime. I thought about that bet, about my mother's face when she counted out those bills. The rage that had been my fuel started transforming into something colder. Purpose. I hired my first employee, Glenn, no relation to my uncle, a kid from the West Side with a story like mine. Then Priya, then James, then a whole team of people who understood what it meant to claw your way up. We worked 80-hour weeks building something that mattered. By 27, Phoenix Solutions had 15 employees and contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. I bought my first house, a townhouse in Buckhead with a view and a mortgage that made me dizzy. I sent Grandma Reby photos. Her voice was weaker now, but her pride came through the phone lines. Your daddy would be so proud, baby girl. Grandma Ruby died on a Tuesday morning in March. I was in a meeting with Delta executives when my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Finally, I excused myself, stepped into the hallway. Melvin's name on the screen. Grandma's gone, Elizabeth. She went peaceful in her sleep. The world tilted. I slid down the wall, phone pressed to my ear while my baby brother cried. The funeral's Saturday. You coming home? Home. The word felt foreign. I'll be there. The flight to Baltimore felt endless. I hadn't been back in 7 years. Melvin picked me up from the airport, 21 now, tall, working construction. You look different, he said, eyeing my tailored suit. You look grown, I replied. We didn't talk about the family. The funeral was at Greater Hope Baptist, the same church where we'd mourned Daddy. My mother sat in the front pew, older, harder. Uncle Glenn had gained weight. Aunt Beverly's face had that pinched look of perpetual disappointment. They stared when I walked in, whispers spreading like wildfire. That's Elizabeth? Look at that suit. Heard she got some kind of business. After the service at the repast, my mother approached. 7 years of silence stood between us. You came, she said flatly. For Grandma. She left you something. A letter and some papers. Lawyer says you gotta come by the house. Uncle Glenn appeared, drink in hand. Well. Little Elizabeth. Heard you doing all right for yourself. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Better than all right, I said evenly. How's that bet looking, Uncle Glenn? I'm 27. 3 years to spare. Grandma Ruby's letter was sealed in a yellow envelope, my name written in her shaky handwriting. I opened it in my childhood bedroom, now a storage room filled with junk. My dearest Elizabeth, it began. If you're reading this, I've gone home to glory. Baby girl, I need to tell you something I should have said years ago. That night at your graduation, after they made that cruel bet, I went in my room and cried. Not because I believed them, but because I was too weak to defend you. I was scared of them, scared of causing trouble in my old age. I failed you. So I'm fixing it now. I've left you my house, paid off, worth about $120,000. It ain't much, but it's yours. I also saved some money over the years. $58,000. I want you to take it and remember, family isn't always blood. Family is who shows up when you need them. Your mama and them, they're broken people raising more broken people. You broke that cycle. I'm so proud of you. One more thing, there's a shoebox in my closet. Top shelf. You need to see what's in it. Love you forever, Grandma Ruby. My hands trembled. Melvin found me 20 minutes later, tears streaming down my face. What is it? I showed him the letter. He sat beside me on the floor, both of us crying for the woman who'd loved us when our own mother couldn't. Then I remembered. The shoebox. I found it exactly where she said, dusty and worn. Inside were photographs, letters, and a smaller envelope marked evidence. I opened it. Bank statements. Recorded phone calls transcribed. Legal documents. My blood ran cold as I read. The documents told a story I'd never known. After Daddy died, he'd left a life insurance policy, $300,000, meant to be split between me and Melvin for college. My mother was the trustee. The policy paid out when I was 16. I'd never seen a penny. The bank statements showed withdrawals. $30,000 to Uncle Glenn for a business venture that failed within months. $40,000 to Aunt Beverly for medical expenses that lined up with her kitchen renovation. $50,000 to my mother's new car, designer purses, a trip to Jamaica. They'd spent our inheritance while telling me we were too poor for me to go to community college. While I worked at that soul-crushing call center. While I ate ramen and slept in my car studying. Melvin stood behind me, reading over my shoulder. That money was ours. His voice cracked. Elizabeth, I dropped out of school because I couldn't afford it. I've been working construction for 3 years because I thought he couldn't finish. The rage I'd felt at 17 came roaring back, but colder now. Calculated. Grandma's note at the bottom of the box explained everything. I found out 2 years ago. Confronted Diane. She told me to mind my business. I was gathering evidence to take to a lawyer when I got sick. Baby, this is theft. You and Melvin have legal options. But more than that, you have the truth. Use it however you need to heal. I looked at my brother, saw my own fury reflected in his eyes. I'm calling a lawyer, I said. Tomorrow. That night I didn't sleep. I made a different kind of call, to a private investigator Vanessa had once used. I need everything, I told him. Every debt, every secret, everything. The lawyer, Michelle Davis, was a family law specialist with a reputation for scorched earth tactics. She reviewed Grandma's documents in her downtown Baltimore office while I sat across from her, Melvin beside me. This is clear-cut embezzlement, Michelle said. Your mother had fiduciary duty as trustee. This is potentially criminal. What do we do? Melvin asked. Michelle's smile was sharp. We have options. Sue for restitution plus interest. You're looking at roughly $400,000 owed between you. Or we go criminal, though that's harder to prove intent. Or, she paused, we negotiate. Threaten the lawsuit, force them to pay back what they can, get confessions documented. I thought about my mother's face at the funeral. Uncle Glenn's fake smile. I want them to acknowledge what they did. Publicly. That's harder to guarantee. Then we do both. Sue them. Criminal charges if possible. And I want it documented so thoroughly they can't deny it. Melvin grabbed my hand. Elizabeth, they're still family. No, I said firmly. Family doesn't steal from orphan children. Family doesn't bet on you to fail. They're strangers who share our blood. Michelle filed the lawsuit that week. The private investigator's report came back 3 days later. Uncle Glenn owed $60,000 in gambling debts. Aunt Beverly was being sued by her mortgage company. My mother had maxed out 6 credit cards. They'd spent everything, including our future, on nothing. The process server found them together at Uncle Glenn's house. A small mercy. One humiliation instead of 3 separate ones. My phone exploded with calls I didn't answer. Finally, my mother got through. How could you do this to your own family? I didn't plan for it to go viral. I'd simply needed to tell someone, so I posted on Reddit's legal advice forum, seeking validation more than counsel. Found out family stole my inheritance, bet on me to fail, spent the money while I struggled. Now suing them. AITA. The post exploded. 50,000 upvotes in 6 hours. Comments flooded in. People sharing their own toxic family stories, cheering me on, offering advice. Then Twitter found it. TikTok. Instagram. Within 48 hours, my story was everywhere. Names changed but details intact. News outlets called it the graduation bet that changed everything. BuzzFeed ran a feature. A YouTuber made a video that got 2 million views. My mother called hysterical. People are showing up at my work. Someone recognized me. You need to take that post down. I didn't use your names, I said calmly. But you put enough details. Elizabeth, people know. Funny how shame works, isn't it? How it feels when people judge you. She hung up. Uncle Glenn texted threats until I forwarded them to Michelle, who forwarded them to the police. Aunt Beverly tried sympathy. We're family. Can't we work this out privately? But the media attention had consequences I didn't anticipate. Phoenix Solutions got mentioned in articles. My business phone rang constantly. Half supportive potential clients impressed by my story, half critics calling me vindictive. Then something unexpected happened. A producer from a major morning show called. "We'd love to have you on. Share your side, talk about overcoming family trauma, building success from nothing." Interested? I thought about 17-year-old me crying in that bus station. Only if I can bring my brother. Even better, she said. The interview was scheduled for 2 weeks out. My mother called one final time. "Please don't do this. You'll destroy us." I hung up without responding. The morning show interview changed everything. Melvin and I sat on that couch in designer clothes I'd bought us both, lights bright and hot, while the host asked carefully worded questions. "Take us back to that graduation day," she said gently. I told the story. The bet. The laughter. Walking out with garbage bags. Melvin cried when he talked about dropping out of school, learning later the money that could have saved him had been stolen. "What do you want people to know?" the host asked. I looked directly at the camera. "That poverty isn't just about lack of money. It's about lack of support, lack of belief, lack of people who see your potential. I survived because one person, my grandmother, believed in me. And because I was angry enough to turn that pain into fuel. But mostly, I want people to know that you don't owe toxic people access to your success just because you share DNA." The clip went viral immediately. 5 million views in a day. 10 million by the end of the week. My business exploded. Companies wanted to work with that girl who proved her family wrong. Phoenix Solutions' revenue tripled within a month. I had to hire 6 more employees. Meanwhile, the lawsuit ground forward. Michelle was relentless. Discovery produced more evidence. Text messages between my mother and her siblings discussing how to spend Diane's insurance money, not mine and Melvin's. Jokes about us being taken care of while they upgraded their lives. The settlement conference was brutal. My mother looked smaller, somehow older. Uncle Glenn couldn't meet my eyes. Aunt Beverly cried. "We'll have to file bankruptcy," my mother said. "We don't have 400,000. "You had it once," I replied coldly. "You chose to spend it." The judge ordered restitution, $378,000 with interest, plus legal fees. When they couldn't pay immediately, she set up garnishment from their wages, liens on their property. Uncle Glenn had to sell his house. Aunt Beverly's car got repossessed. My mother moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. I watched it all happen with a satisfaction that probably made me a bad person. I didn't care. Melvin used his half to go back to school, engineering at Georgia Tech full-time, finally chasing the dream he'd deferred. I invested mine back into Phoenix Solutions, opening a second office in Atlanta. But the real vindication came 6 months later. I was closing on my 3rd property, a vacation home in Hilton Head oceanfront, worth $800,000. My realtor handed me the keys at the beach house, champagne ready for celebration. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Elizabeth." My mother's voice, smaller than I'd ever heard it. "I saw you bought another house. Congratulations." Silence stretched between us like years. "I need help," she continued. "I lost my apartment. Uncle Glenn is sick, needs money for treatment. We started a GoFundMe, but," she laughed bitterly, "turns out nobody wants to help the family that got famous for being terrible." "I know I have no right to ask, but..." "You're right," I interrupted. "You have no right. Please. I'm your mother." "No, you're the woman who gave birth to me. Mothers protect their children. You bet money on my failure and stole my future." I looked out at the ocean, waves rolling, eternal and indifferent. "But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll match whatever your GoFundMe raises. Dollar for dollar." Hope crept into her voice. "Really?" "Yes. Because I want you to see exactly how little people care." The GoFundMe raised $843 in 3 months. I sent them a check for $843 with a note. This is the last money you'll ever see from me. Use it wisely. I never heard from them again. Phoenix Solutions continued to grow. By 30, I had 40 employees, offices in 4 cities, and annual revenue exceeding $8 million. I bought that 3rd vacation home, then a 4th. A cabin in Aspen. I dated a kind man named Aaron who worked in tech, who knew my story and loved me anyway. We got engaged overlooking that Hilton Head beach where I'd gotten my mother's last call. Melvin graduated with honors, got a job at a firm in California making 6 figures. We talked every Sunday, sometimes about the past, mostly about the future. I started a scholarship fund in Grandma Ruby's name for kids aging out of foster care or escaping toxic families. $50,000 a year, full ride to any college. The first recipient was a girl named Destiny from East Baltimore. She reminded me of me, hungry, angry, determined. "You're going to change the world," I told her at the award ceremony. They said I'd be homeless by 30. I told the audience at a keynote speech in New York. My story now a cautionary tale about resilience. Instead, I'm buying my 3rd vacation home while they're crowdfunding. But this isn't about revenge. It's about refusing to let broken people define your worth. The crowd stood applauding. Afterward, a young woman approached. "Your story saved my life," she said. "I left my toxic family last month. I'm terrified, but your story, it gave me hope." I hugged her, this stranger who understood. "You're going to make it," I whispered. And I meant it. Because some of us are born into families that try to bury us. They don't realize we're seeds.